Let me back up a sec, because if you'd told me 2 months ago that my dock, the one with the peeling paint and the view everyone claimed was quaint, would become the stage for one of the wildest federal stings in maritime history, I'd have laughed in your face. But that's exactly where I ended up, standing on weathered planks while a group of HOA board members in $1,000 suits tried to bulldoze my life at 8 o'clock in the morning. Picture this. The excavator's engine is already rumbling, the sun barely up, and Lysandra Hawthorne, queen of the Pelican Bay HOA, checks her Cartier watch like she's counting down to Armageddon. Demolition begins in 47 seconds, Mr. Blackwater, she says, holding a court order like it's a sword. My dock, my property, about to be turned into driftwood because of some rule I'd supposedly broken 3 days after moving in. And you know what? I just smiled. 12 years in the Navy JAG. You learn not to flinch, not to blink. Instead of calling 911, I dialed a code. Code 77 Alpha, calm as ever, and Lysandra's smirk faltered for the first time. You're reporting a violation of the Federal Maritime Protection Act, she sneered. That's not even a real law. I just nodded. You're right, it isn't. But I wrote the real one. Every word, every loophole. And you just confessed, on camera, to knowing about it. Before her jaw could finish dropping, Coast Guard vessels swept in like they'd been hiding behind the clouds, agents popping out of unmarked vans, even one guy emerging from what I thought was a maintenance shed but turned out to be federal surveillance. If you've ever had neighbors who are into something far shadier than landscaping and pool rules, you know that feeling, the moment the real game starts. But hold on, rewind 72 hours. I was just a guy with a cardboard box of kitchen junk, moving in at the precise time my realtor insisted, 2:15 p.m. sharp. That felt odd. Who cares if I'm early or late, right? Turns out, timing is everything when you're inheriting more than just a lakeside cabin. This place, it looked like a bachelor's dream. Big appliances, bulletproof glass, basement door with a lock I'd only seen at secure naval installations. The last owner died with no heirs, and the government handled the sale with suspicious efficiency. My cover was simple: Garrison Blackwater, maritime consultant, ex-Navy, medical discharge for a shoulder injury. Scar sold the story, though in reality, I'd earned it testifying against an admiral who sold weapons on the side that I didn't get 2 hours of peace before a convoy rolled up. White Maybach, BMW, Audi, Bentley, all looking out of place in a marina where most folks drive pickups with rusted bumpers. Lysandra Hawthorne led the pack. Perfect hair, diamonds blinding enough to make you squint, husband Magnus looming behind her like he's guarding state secrets. The rest of the board arranged like a wall. They hit me with accusations. I was running illegal commercial ops, breaking 17 new covenants retroactively applied. We know about the surveillance, the boats, the federal connections, Magnus growled. That got my attention. I'd barely found the fuse box, and they're accusing me of things I didn't even know were possible. They claim to have a state judge in their pocket, but I let my JAG instincts do the talking. Navigable waters are federal jurisdiction, I said, cool as a cucumber. State judges can't overrule maritime law. That landed like a punch. Lysandra's face froze. Magnus' hand went tight on a briefcase. A phone rang, satellite encrypted, not the kind you get at Best Buy. Whatever he heard made him pale, and suddenly the HOA threat retreated, less like conquerors and more like folks who just saw a ghost. You know what I mean? It was a dance, and neither side quite knew the music yet. That night, Captain Reiko Sato, who ran the neighboring tuna fleet, dropped by with a bottle of sake, ostensibly a welcome gift, but I know an intel probe when I see one. She'd seen boats come and go at night for years, special ops subs by the look of it, but the weight was wrong for drugs. Weapons, she said quietly. But that's just my guess. The next morning, the harassment began. Anonymous complaints, surprise fire inspections, code enforcement at dawn, a parade of agencies all searching for reasons to shut me down. Classic PSYOP stuff. Only this wasn't the military. This was HOA warfare, backed by serious criminal muscle. By noon, the harbor master, Dermot, a man with more brine in his veins than blood, shows up to inspect my dock. He's nervous, shoves a clipboard at me with fake violations, all photoshopped from a collapsed dock in Louisiana. Henderson used to pay me not to log arrivals, he confesses, voice shaking. But since he died, it's gotten heavier, more dangerous. Semi-subs, new moon landings, containers needing 6 men to carry. Someone wanted my dock condemned so bad they fabricated evidence, tried to force me out. You ever feel a story's not about you, but you're the only one who doesn't know the script? So I do what Navy lawyers do best. I make a paper trail of my own, feed Dermot away to fudge the dates, buy myself a window. Then I break into the locked basement. There's surveillance gear, coded logbooks, satellite comms, and a federal authorization letter signed by 3 agencies that don't even officially talk to each other. The last entry, written the day before the previous owner died. They know. Activate Blackwater. Someone had been planning this for months. Someone picked me. Just as I'm connecting the dots, a cigarette boat roars up to my dock. 3 guys, ex-military types gone bad, hand me a photo from my testimony against the admiral. Their offer? Work for them. Help launder shipments using the loopholes I literally wrote, and all the harassment disappears. If I say no, they have eyes everywhere, or so they want me to believe. But their photos are only water-based. They can't see what happens on land that I call a number I was never supposed to use. Voice on the other end, filtered and cool, says I've been activated. Henderson, dying of cancer, chose me because I had the right mix of credibility, trusted by law enforcement and criminals alike. Turns out, Sato is ex-Intel, Dermot's been feeding info to the feds, and even a couple board members are moles. My dock isn't just a dock, it's the trap for an international weapons smuggling ring. With a little maneuvering, I arrange a convergence. File for renovations to force the smugglers onto Lysandra's dock. Agree to the Ukrainians' terms, but insist we meet at 2 a.m. at my place. Leave a voicemail for Lysandra, implying I've got dirt on her, and invite her to my dock, alone, if she dares. At the appointed hour, the fog's thick as stew, and every player shows up. Ukrainians, Lysandra, Magnus, even a sub-crew fresh from the depths. Weapons drawn, accusations flying. That's when the Coast Guard sweeps in, nets drop from Sato's fishing boats, and the feds reveal themselves, crawling out of every shadow like ants on honey. Lysandra gets read her rights as she realizes this isn't some HOA squabble, but a federal bust. Magnus tries to ditch his pistol. The Ukrainians try to run. Everyone's rounded up, including 2 state legislators, the harbor judge, and half the HOA board. By sunrise, 43 arrests, millions in weapons and cash seized, the whole enterprise unraveled. And you know what? That's not even the best part. The assets, boats, gold, everything, get funneled into a trust that actually helps the harbor, funds scholarships, updates fishing fleets, secures the community. Sato's crews get the upgrades they've needed for years. Dermot becomes the cleanest harbor master on the coast. I end up with a plaque on my dock, protector of the working waterfront, which means more to me than any medal. A year later, just when I think it's all over, Patricia, a reformed board member, shows up with evidence of an even bigger ring up north, using what she learned from our investigation. "Will you help me?" she asks, folder in hand, eyes blazing with purpose. Of course I will. The fight never really ends, you know? Henderson's legacy lives on. A system for rooting out corruption, a training ground for the next generation of whistleblowers. The Secretary of Homeland Security calls it the Henderson Protocol, and suddenly, every major port wants a piece of what we built right here on this patch of dock. So next time someone tells you a dock is just wood and water, remember, it might be a fortress, a trap, a school, or the stage for the fight of your life. And if you ever find yourself at the center of a mess like this, just ask yourself, are you going to run, cut a deal, or stand your ground and change the game? Drop your thoughts below, tell me where you're listening from, and weigh in. What's the real meaning of justice when everyone's got something to hide? I'll be watching the fog for the next round, but for now, this dock is safe, and that's enough for me.